Before you could buy a different bottle for every little job around the house, the family simply made its own. A cake of soap, a jar of polish, a box of powder, and quietly over the years, it saved them a small fortune. Our grandparents ran an entire household on hundreds of small, clever tricks that we have almost completely forgotten. Every one of them was documented, tested, and still works exactly the same way today. This is the record of 16 of them. The little household tricks that cost almost nothing and saved a great deal. Not one needs a store, and everyone is still sitting right here in the almanac. Number 1. Making your own soap. A household that made its own washing and shaving soap turned a handful of cheap kitchen scraps into something you would otherwise pay dearly for at the store. And the old recipe put the saving in plain numbers. 50 cents worth of materials, it said, would make $6 worth of soap, 12 times your money back, from a single afternoon at the stove. You shaved white bar soap thin, boiled it a few minutes with water and a couple of common additives, and poured it into molds. It is a record of how it was made, and of how little it truly cost. Number 2. Homemade silver and brass polish. Instead of buying a tin of polish, the household mixed its own from 3 cheap things kept on the pantry shelf. To a quart of rainwater, you added 2 ounces of ammonia and 3 ounces of chalk, bottled it, and shook it before use. A wash in hot soapy water and a rub with that, and the silver came up bright. A single bottle of that homemade polish cost only pennies to mix and lasted for months on the shelf, brightening the whole silver service again and again. The shop-bought tin, by comparison, was dear and quickly gone. Number 3. Softening hard water. Hard water ate through soap and furred up the kettle, so instead of buying a softener, the household simply made its own from washing soda or borax. The rule was 2 tablespoons of a soda solution to each gallon of water. A pound of soda dissolved in a quart of boiling water, bottled and kept on hand. Borax did the very same job just as cheaply. Number 4. Plain salt. A box of it cost next to nothing, and yet it quietly did the work of a dozen separate cleaning products from all around the house. A damp cloth dipped in salt lifted egg stains off the silver and tea stains off the china, and a little salt scattered under the bread and cake in the oven stopped them scorching on the bottom. And for a spot of iron rust, you squeezed on lemon juice, covered it with salt, and set it out in the hot sun. Salt was the 1-cent cure for a dozen small troubles all over the house. Number 5. One machine that did a dozen jobs. Rather than buy a separate gadget for every task, a single pedal-powered machine took on the whole workshop and kitchen at once. With the right attachment, it would polish, buff, drill, churn the butter, peel potatoes, grind the meat, knead the dough, mill the flour, and even make the ice cream. 9 jobs from one machine and your own 2 legs. Driven by the rider's own legs, it turned out far more work than tired arms ever could, and it cost one single purchase instead of a whole shelf full of separate motors and gadgets. One machine bought once did the work of many. Number 6. Reviving rusty flat irons. A rusted iron was never thrown out and replaced, it was brought straight back to life with 2 simple things already in the house. You rubbed it over with beeswax and a little lard, or beeswax and salt, and the rough, rusted face came smooth and slick again. A few cents of wax saved the whole price of a new iron. Number 7. Making the broom last. A broom was not something you replaced every season. With one small weekly habit, a single broom lasted far longer than it had any right to. Once a week, you simply dipped the head in boiling soapy suds. It softened the bristles and washed out the grit that wore them down, so the broom kept its shape and swept clean for years. A store broom might be worn down to a stub within a single busy year, but the one that was washed each week could go on for several. Over a lifetime of sweeping, that one small habit quietly saved the price of a great many brooms. Number 8. Saving the good pans. Deep tins and pans always rusted first along their seams, so after washing you brushed a few drops of oil down every joint to keep the rust from ever taking hold. And a saucepan gone dull and stained was not scrapped either. A rub with a little powdered pumice stone brought the enamel back bright and clean, and it went right back to work for years more. Number 9. Bringing leather back to life. A tired leather chair or a scuffed old book binding was never given up on, it was brightened with something already sitting in the kitchen bowl. You dipped a cloth in the white of an egg and rubbed it over the leather, and the dull, cracked surface came up rich and glossy again. A single egg did the work of a whole bottle of leather cream. Number 10. The household stain book. Before there was a spray for every spill, the pantry held a separate cure for each one, and not one of them cost more than a few cents. Iron rust came out with lemon, salt, and sunshine. A fresh ink stain lifted with repeated soakings in plain milk, and a grass stain covered thickly with molasses until wash day was simply never seen again. A butter grease spot was covered thickly with talcum powder and simply left overnight to draw the grease out. And even a light scorch mark could be lifted by wetting the cloth and setting it out in the sun until the brown mark faded. Number 11. The boiling water trick for coffee and fruit stains. For the toughest colored stains, they did not reach for a chemical at all. They reached for the kettle and a little height. You stretched the cloth over a bowl and poured the boiling water straight through it from up high, so that it struck the stain with real force. The falling water drove the coffee or the fruit clean out of the weave. Number 12. Freeing what was stuck, instead of forcing it and breaking it. A jammed glass stopper or a jar lid that would not budge was never something to fight with until it shattered. For a glass stopper, you poured a little oil around it, waited a few minutes and tapped it gently loose. For a stuck jar, you stood it in a pan of water and brought it to a boil, and the lid gave way at once. Both little tricks worked on the same quiet idea, a touch of heat or oil to loosen the grip, and patience in place of brute force. Nothing was cracked and nothing wasted, and a good bottle or a full jar was saved every time. Number 13. Clearing a blocked gas burner. When the little holes in a stove burner clogged with soot and the burner could not be lifted out to clean, there was no need at all to call anyone. You opened up every little hole with a large pin, then held a vacuum nozzle over them to draw the loosened dirt straight back out. A pin and a spare minute did the whole job a repairman would have charged for. Number 14. A greenhouse for free out of the rubbish. To start seeds early, you never had to buy a cold frame. You made one from the very things already headed for the bin. A milk jug with its middle cut out, or a clear cover propped over an old egg carton, trapped the sun's warmth around the young plants just like real glass. Free containers doing the work of bought equipment. Under those free covers, the seeds sprouted weeks ahead of the open garden, giving a longer and richer growing season for nothing at all. A whole windowsill of them cost only the rubbish you had already been about to throw away. Number 15. Old windows given a second life. When the storm windows came down for the season, the thrifty gardener did not throw them out. An old window was the ready-made lid for a cold frame. Laid over a simple wooden box, an old storm window made a warm, cold frame at almost no cost. Even old window screens with a sheet of plastic tacked over them would serve. Nothing that still had a use was wasted. Number 16. Wasting absolutely nothing in the old house. The odds and ends that other people threw straight in the bin each had a quiet second job waiting for them. The chicken drippings greased the baking tins. A little ground coffee on the hot coals freshened a whole room in a moment, and a pinch of soda in the vase kept the cut flowers alive far longer. Nothing bought, nothing wasted. Not one of these tricks came in a bottle from a store. Together they ran a clean, working household on pantry scraps. A little know-how and almost no money at all, and that is how a fortune was saved, a few cents at a time. We did not forget these because they failed. We forgot them because a store made it easy to just buy another one. But every trick is still here in the record, so that's one more page from the almanac. Subscribe. There's a lot we forgot.